Hi everyone. So I want to share a practice today that has been not only very special to me but also very helpful. And most of you know that I'm a yoga teacher, and often people, because of that, think that yoga teachers do yoga all the time and their life is all about yoga. Um, but for me, just as much as yoga has been part of my life, also the exploration of the body and different movement systems has had an equal weight to my practice and equal importance for my own path and my own life. So something that I would like to share with you today is an intuitive movement practice. And to introduce this practice, I want to talk a little bit about two concepts. And the first concept I would like to speak a little bit about is the idea of isolation versus connection, or stillness versus movement. And the second thing I want to talk about is movement that is either internally guided or externally guided. So when we move the body, so we're first going to look at movement, then we can see that every body part is connected to something else inside the body. So this means that if I want to move one part of my body, automatically other parts of the body are going to respond too. So let's say I start moving my right fingers off my knee. If I lift my right fingers, automatically my hand is going to respond, and my hand is going to start lifting up too, and with that the movement goes into my wrist, into my arm, and actually already my shoulder is starting to move. Through that my chest is moving. So every part of the body, whenever we bring movement there, other parts of the body that are connected in a chain, in a wave-like motion, are going to respond to that initial movement. So everything is connected. Now, often in certain exercise systems and also sometimes in yoga, what we do is we create isolation, or we isolate movements. And that simply means that we keep the body immobile or locked, and we focus just on moving one particular body part or just doing one particular movement. For example, a head roll is a simple example. I keep my spine straight, my shoulders steady, and I just focus on slowly rotating my head. So I'm isolating this movement. If I wouldn't do that, then my other body parts, or my whole body, would start to follow that movement. I don't know whether you can see it, but I'll give it a go. I'm dropping my head forward, and if I don't lock here in my back, then my shoulders will slump forward as well. My back responds. As I'm moving to the sides, my whole body wants to go with that motion. Yeah, so this is the difference between isolating certain parts of the body, or keeping certain parts of the body immobile, versus creating or going with that connection and that flow inside the body. Now, there are two different ways of working with the body, and it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It just means that these are different movement systems, and each one has their benefits and also their disadvantages, depending on what it is that you want to work with, or what it is that you want to achieve. For example, if you want to train your abdominal muscles, it totally makes sense that you're going to isolate those muscles and work with them very targeted. So if you're doing a sit-up, you don't want your legs to move. You want to immobilize certain parts of the body so that you can work on your abdominal muscles. Yeah. So then I want to talk a little bit about movement that is internally guided or externally guided. And with a lot of movement systems, we notice that movement is externally guided. And yoga is an example of that. Even though yoga can sometimes fall into both categories, because it really depends on how you practice. So what do I mean by movement that is externally guided? When we assume a yoga pose, for example, we have poses with names that have a shape, that have a form, and we decide we're going to move into a yoga pose, into an asana. The same is true for many types of dance, where there is a certain type of dance that has movements, that has styles, that has forms, and we learn those moves so that then we can perform them. And because of that, there are ways of refining your technique, of making your movements better, more correct, we could say. So these are training systems that are focused on the external form, and where that external form is externally given to us. Also with an asana, for example, we know what an asana is meant to look like. There's Padahastasana, and we have a mental image of Padahastasana. We know how it's performed, how it's not performed, and we move the body into that pose. So it's externally directed, externally guided. Now, internally guided movement systems means that we're moving without having any external form, without having an image that we're working towards. And basically it means that we're moving in a very intuitive way. And for many people, this is actually quite challenging because it requires us to really tune in with the body and to allow that movement to emerge from the inside out. So the old paradigm used to look at the body as being one system and the mind being another, and that often the body and the mind get separated. And the purpose of body-mind practice, also like yoga, was often seen in rebuilding that connection between the body and the mind. Now, another way of looking at this, and a thought that's, or a vision that's more and more agreed upon, is that the body and the mind are not two separate entities that are connected, but that in fact they are one and the same entity, and perhaps just a slightly different layer or a different entry point, a different way of looking at it. That there really is no separation between the body and the mind, and that the body is actually the subconscious mind. Not just that the body and the mind are connected, or that the body is a reflection of the subconscious mind, but that the subconscious mind actually is the physical body. And this also explains why our feelings and emotions are manifested inside the body, and why the body is such a direct expression of how we feel and of how we think. Now, if we want to work with those deeper seeds inside the body, so our emotions, our older wounds and traumas as well, and our thoughts, then we want to go beyond that physical form to really tap deeper into what is held inside the body, what is really alive and present inside the body. So then if we're working with a movement that is externally guided or externally directed, then we are working with form. And within that form, we can stretch, release. So there's an option, a possibility for releasing tension, for clearing out stagnation, both energetically as well as emotionally and mentally. But we are doing that within a form that is given, that is predefined. Whereas if we allow movement to arise from the inside out, then we're really tapping into that pure intelligence of the body, of the cells, and we're allowing the body to move in a way that helps the release and the expression of whatever is there, whatever is present. And that will be something different for all of us in any given moment. And it will be different for us every day as well. So the power of intuitive movement really lies in connecting and tapping into what is really alive inside the body and alive inside the mind, inside the subconscious mind, and bringing that to the surface through movement, and through movement allowing that to come out, to live out, and to release. So as you can see, these two systems of movement that is externally directed versus internally directed, they are both very valuable, and they work with the body and with the psyche in different ways. Now, I want to talk about the movement that is internally directed today. You're used to seeing yoga videos from me, and a lot of what I do is yoga based, but a big part of my personal practice is actually movement based. So I want to share a little bit of that today. And I want to share a practice today, which you can call an intuitive movement practice. I first learned this practice under the name of tandava. Tandava being the dance of Shiva. So the same idea is actually already present also in the yogic tradition, but it appears more in the traditions of movement and of dance. So what I want to share with you today is a movement-based practice. It is a practice of intuitive movement. We can call it intuitive dance, but it's really an intuitive movement practice. And movement can be dance, but it can also just be movement. So I decided to not use any music today, so that if you're doing this practice at home and if you want to do it day after day, you can just choose your own music, because you might have different feelings on different days. And like this, you don't get bored of listening to the same track again and again. So I'm going to do it without music, and you can just choose your own music at home that you can play off on your computer or on your phone over this track. And you can of course also do it in silence. Silence can really create a beautiful space for movement to arise, without that movement being directed by the emotions that are invoked by music. And at the same time, music can enhance our emotional expression. So just do what feels good to you. You can do it in silence or with music. And we're going to do the practice seated today. There are different levels to this practice, that you can move up from seated onto the knees up to standing. There are practices that you can start standing, gradually work your way down. Today I would just like to give you a short introduction of what the practice is and do a seated movement practice with you. So the idea is that the movement that comes through the body is internally created and comes from beyond the mind. So that means that when we're moving, we have no idea how we're going to move. We don't know what move is going to come next. It also means that if I'm reaching out through my arm here, I'm not necessarily going to reach out through my arm there. The movements don't have to be synchronized or symmetrical. Yeah, so you really just move in every moment in a way that just passes through you. So we're going to empty our mind completely, and we're going to tune in into the movement that's already there inside the body. And the body is actually never fully still. The muscles are constantly readjusting themselves to hold up our posture. The body is continuously moving with the breath. So the body is actually in continuous motion. And only when we create tension somewhere, when we contract the muscles, are we creating stillness. Yeah? So here we're really going to melt into a relaxed presence and a relaxed flow. We're entering into a flow state where we are just experiencing, feeling and witnessing. So we are not the doer. We are taking a little step back and allowing the body to move and to express, and we're just there to feel, to witness and to experience. So this is really the feeling that you want to get. So I'll guide you through the practice, and you can just practice with me. So during this part, you can just keep your eyes closed. You can look at me for inspiration, but not for inspiration for movement, because you want the movement to come from the inside, from you. So your movement might look completely different than my movement. Yeah. So close your eyes, just sit comfortably. And we're going to start by taking a deep breath. And as you breathe, allow your body to move with that breath. We inhale deeply down into the belly and out with a sigh. And again, inhale down into the belly, out with a sigh. Good. Now just allow your body to relax in this position. feeling the breath. Allow your body to gently ebb and flow with the breath. And just notice whatever movement is already present and allow that movement to be. And for me, when I try to sit very still, I often feel a slight pain and contraction in the muscles of my back, on the left side underneath my shoulder blade, around the shoulder blade. So very often when I sit, I just allow my body to move very gently, very small movements to release that tension. It helps to center your awareness in your spine. And just notice whatever movements are there and allow them to happen. And if the body is fully relaxed, you will notice that every little movement connects and ebbs into another part of the body. And just allow everything to move without exaggerating any movements, without directing them. And just let your body do what it wants to do. And especially people who have studied technical forms of dance might find it difficult to move the body intuitively from beyond the mind, from beyond form. Or if you have studied dance, you might move your body automatically in a familiar way, and that's fully okay. And whenever you feel like you're trying to control the movements, or whenever you're deliberately moving a certain way, you can just stop your movements, come back to stillness, and come back to the spine, come back to the breath. And you can gradually allow your movements to become larger. And as you're entering into that flow, just feel the stillness opening up inside. The body always knows how to move to release tension. The body always knows what you need, what is good for you. There's nothing you need to do. You might feel that at some point the body automatically wants to come to stillness. And just allow that to happen. When it does, maybe it wants to continue again. going to slow down our movements, make them smaller. And come back to a neutral position. Good. And just take a moment to observe what you're feeling. Take a few deep breaths. And slowly open your eyes. Okay, so this was an introduction to intuitive movement. So movement that is internally guided rather than externally guided. And for me, this has been an amazing, valuable practice to work with my emotions, but also to work with tension inside the body. Tension that I was not able to release from the body with stretching. And I think we all have certain problem areas in our body. For me, it's always been the upper back and the shoulders. And it doesn't matter how much I stretch, or also when I train my muscles to gain some strength inside the muscles, there's always a level of tension that stays. And working with this softness and this gentle movement, intuitive movement, has been the best help for me to release that tension from the body. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you will practice it a few times to really see the benefits. Sometimes it takes a few weeks of daily practice, even if it's just a few minutes, to really see how it starts to change your body. And I also found that by doing this practice, even just now by practicing for a couple of minutes, I feel this emptiness and this relaxation open up inside of me. So it's also perfect to start your meditation like that. Or if you want to meditate and you find it hard to calm down, or you have a lot of racing thoughts, this practice can also help you. Thank you for watching.